I spent a lot of my early days in music looking for my pop's approval. You know what I'm saying? Like, even when I first moved out of Buffalo and moved down here to Charlotte, and I started going to the School of the Arts, and that was a whole thing in and of itself. Because even though I had been around amazing musicians all my life, walking into that band room for the first time and seeing, I was 12 at the time, but seeing like little 13 and 14-year-old kids who was playing Miles Davis solos note for note and playing John Coltrane solos note for note, and seeing like, there's one particular drummer who was 12. He was a year older than me grade wise, but he was only a couple months older than me. But I'm talking about, like, he sounded like Dave Weckl at 12 years old. Like, at 12 years old, he played the Modern Drummer Festival. Like, how you 12 and you endorse with, you got to deal with Pearl drums, and you got to deal with Sabian cymbals, and you got to deal with Vic Firth sticks, and you got to deal with Remo, like, and like, be coming to school, like, showing us all your exclusive sticks and stuff. Like, yeah, Vic just sent me these. It's like, where am I? Where we at? What, what's happening? This is the Twilight Zone. This don't make no sense. We're kids. We're kids. Like, it was like everybody, like, at the school had such an old soul and was so serious about it. And I think, like, being around, I think what really did it was, like, the first time I heard, like, my pops compliment one of the kids at the school, I was like, he ain't never said that to me before. I was like, he was like, man, what's his name? Adrian? Man, that boy bad. Adrian Crutchfield, he bad on that saxophone. You know I play drums, right, Pops? You know I play drums with you every Sunday. You ain't never said that before. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I wouldn't say it out loud, but I was like, that stings a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But being at that school, man, that was a huge shift in how seriously I took, my craft. And when I started studying jazz and just being around cats who are just monsters. Like, they were monsters when we was little, and they're monsters today. Like, Adrian Crutchfield went on to play with Prince. You got Harvey Cummings, who went on to do what he's doing. And, Mike D'Angelo, the kid from the Modern Drummer Festival, who he about to have his doctorate in music and ain't never paid for a single class. You know what I'm saying? You got my boy Ryan Saronich, who toured 10 months out the year. When we was in high school, he's a sophomore in high school. He's endorsed by some saxophone company. He get custom saxophones and mouthpieces that he be bringing to school and stuff like that. And again, like, he touring 10 months out the year and he play 11 different instruments. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, Ashlyn Parker, who got Grammys with the New Orleans Jazz Orchestra, Stephen Gordon, who is an amazing composer and went on to play with the Headhunters, and he got records out now. And, I knew him as a trumpet player when we was in school, and he played keys with the Headhunters, and he got a whole slew of records on drums. And it's just like, being around those cats was like a crazy training ground for me. But like I said, for the sake of diving into my studies so I can keep up and learn from the cats who, I was in school with, it was always like every concert, every competition, every recital, like, I was looking for that, like, that thumbs up from my pops all the time and stuff like that. And he would come to everything, you know what I'm saying? He wouldn't say stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like, when we got in the car, like, he would never say nothing about me. He would, like, say something about, like, somebody else. That little Mike D'Angelo boy, bad on them drums. I'd be in the back seat like, all right. You know what I'm saying? But it was cool because, like I said, I think for me, it ignited a fire for me, and it ignited, like, a certain kind of grind for me. And I learned how to to network with cats, and I learned how to like talk to cats, and I learned how to make myself available to learn, which is another thing I think ends up missing a lot in this time that we live today. It's crazy. We got so much access to so much information, more access right now than we've ever had before. But now that we got access to so much information, cats don't make it a priority to like get information, which is crazy. But that's another conversation. but like it taught me to look for information. It taught me to look for, okay, cool, well, who are you listening to? Well, who are you spending time listening to? What records should I be listening to? Who should I be checking out? What kind of techniques should I be checking out? Why do you tune the drums like this? Or why does it sound different when you're playing this music than when I'm playing at my church on Sunday? Why your drums sound like this? Or why your cymbals got the little rattly things in it? I don't understand that. What's going on here? Or you know what I'm saying? Like, why are you always doing this thing with your trumpet? Why do you when every time you play, like you do this thing with your, I've never seen, I know keyboard players, but I ain't never seen nobody do that. You know what I'm saying? I've always been like looking for information because I wanted to know what it took to do things the right way. And it was like I was always looking for cats who did stuff the right way. And I didn't notice at the time, but the people around me had always taken notice to, yo, like, if it's anybody who gonna go and get it, it's him. It's that cat over there. And even when I got to college, you know, when I went to North Carolina Central, they had the #1 HBCU jazz department in the country, bar none. They don't do the HBCU All-Star Big Band no more, but like they will pick like 20 students, college students from around the country every year for the HBCU All-Star Jazz Band. And it was always, between 10 to 14 of them was always from Central. Like, Central was the spot to go to. And if I was going to study jazz, it wasn't nowhere else I was going to go. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't about Berkeley. It wasn't about, everybody want to go to Berkeley. Everybody want to go to Juilliard. Everybody, and there's nothing, new school, and there's nothing against those schools. Those are amazing programs. But I was like, what I want is right there in Durham, and I need to go there and get it. And it ended up being the best decision I ever made for my life. But even when I got there, you know, I wasn't on what other freshmen was on. Like, I think my whole freshman year, I think I went to 2 parties. And that was, both of those parties was the second semester of my freshman year. When I got there early because at the time, I joined the marching band, but I didn't stay in the marching band. That's another story for another day. But I got on campus earlier than everybody else, and I already knew who the players were, like who the top players were. I knew who the oldest drummer in the department was. I knew it was his last year at the school. Fortunately for me, Harvey Cummings, who I went to school with at Northwest, he had just graduated from Central, so he knew everybody. So he had already given me the 401. You need to meet this dude. You need to meet this dude. You need to meet Cliff Wallace. You need to meet Marcus Anderson. You need to meet this cat, this cat, this cat. I went to church with Brittany Curry. She was an amazing vocalist, and she was in her last 2 years at Central, and she was like, it was lucky for me because the top drummer at the school was her boyfriend. So it was like, yeah, I need you to introduce me to your man. You know what I'm saying? So by the time I got to school, he had already looked at me like a little brother, and I was just like, everywhere you go, I'm going. You going to a jam session? Let me ride. You got a gig out in Chapel Hill? Let me ride. You got somewhere to go in Raleigh? Let me ride. And I used those relationships between Brittany and Cliff and Harvey. I used those relationships to meet all the other players. It's like, oh, you need to meet Brian Horton. Oh, you need to meet Brian Miller. Oh, you need to meet John Brown. Oh, you need to meet, like, I built relationships even with professors before I ever sat in a classroom. So that's just how I operated. So while other freshmen couldn't wait to get out of their house for the first time, I was like, I was already moving different. And I think, like I said, you know, that same kind of drive is what separated me even then, and, you know, what put me in positions to, you know, everybody was shedding at the time, and that was never really my thing. Like, I would go to the sheds, but like, I was never like the super super chops cat, but I understood music. Like if there was nothing else I got from being in that house with my pops and being around my godfather and all my uncles and stuff like that, like I listen to everything. Like I said, like I've always been like a sponge. So I understood like how to play records and how to make records and what I'm saying, how to make stuff feel good. Buffalo's a funk city. Like Rick James, Spyro Gyra, like that's what we do. You know what I'm saying? So and being under cats like E Will and being under cats like Mike and Young World and all the cats who were just a couple years older than me who were already making headway. Those are just the cats I've been around and the cats who I watched growing up. So, I had that ability with me on top of my ability to make relationships. So while a lot of the stuff that I was doing, like other cats would be laughing at, but like by the time that freshman year was over, it was like nobody knows you but freshmen. I know all the decision makers I need to know. So by the time I stepped into my sophomore year, I was already moving. I was already making money. I was already getting paid. And all that is what led up to the whole foreign exchange situation. And like I say, even now when me and my pops talk, I see now like him not giving me that attention, which it feels crazy because now that we talk about it, he was like, I wasn't doing that on purpose. I wasn't trying to teach you a lesson. I just didn't know you was into it like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy. It was like, so this wasn't strategic. You wasn't trying to do this. No, it wasn't. It's the funniest thing ever. But I mean, it's what made me who I am. So.